Britain is a world leader in offshore wind power, with more installed capacity than anywhere else. By 2030, the target is for 1/3 of the UK's electricity to come from offshore wind. And with the global shift to clean growth, it's an export market that could be worth £30 billion in the next decade. But to realise the full potential of offshore wind, turbines will need to be installed in deeper waters with stronger wind resources. Now, different regions of the UK are coming together with industry, regulators and government to pioneer a new technology, floating offshore wind.
It reaches the parts that other wind doesn't reach. So it allows you to go in much deeper water. It opens up options both for energy generation and then also for jobs and economic generation. The demand for green energy has never been greater. In the UK, we've now got a proven track record of developing offshore wind. If you want to get significant volumes out there, you look at electric vehicles, you look at heating, floating is going to unlock the energy opportunity.
Cornwall, in southwest England, has been at the forefront of renewable energy generation for decades. With one of the best wind resources in Europe, it's home to the UK's first commercial onshore wind farm and is pioneering the UK's first deep geothermal power plant. Now, this region wants to help the UK seize the opportunity presented by floating offshore wind.
Offshore wind is a crucial part of the energy mix. It provides low-cost, high-security energy, which is low carbon. With climate change being very high on the agenda is incredibly important. Moving forward, we have to look to the sort of resources which are in the deeper waters.
The Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Local Enterprise Partnership is leading South West England's bid to be part of the floating offshore wind revolution. As well as the economic opportunity, it sees floating wind as a means of achieving Cornwall's target to be net zero carbon by 2030.
The scale of the opportunity is potentially huge. The offshore wind market is growing extremely quickly. Floating offshore wind at the moment is a very small percentage of that market. We'd like to think that in the not too distant future, we're going to be able to gain world leadership in this sector. That's what we're after.
Clean growth is clearly a priority for our government. For Cornwall, those are the wider opportunity around economic growth, and we can maximise those benefits. We are going to see electrification of transport, electrification of heat. So if we're going to produce all of this huge amount of additional electricity, then we need to find bigger opportunities. We're not going to do it just with onshore wind, just with solar on roofs.
Cornwall has already hosted 2 national seminars, bringing together industry, regulators and government to explore the opportunity for the UK to be a world leader in floating offshore wind generation.
Local Enterprise Partnership's been working very hard on this. Energy is one of our 3 priorities within the local industrial strategy. We've had the opportunity to meet the Energy Minister. We've looked very hard and are continuing to pursue and support the redevelopment of Wave Hub into a floating offshore wind hub. We've run 2 separate seminars and engaged with a whole number of stakeholders. So really mapping out this opportunity and seeing that people can see it and work out what it is that we need to do to secure world leadership within it.
When you look at the facilities that are already in place, including the connection at Wave Hub, universities, there's some real opportunities there for the region and you're incredibly well placed to take advantage of it.
Cornwall and the South West already have a large number of companies working in the offshore renewables and oil and gas industries. One of them is A&P Group, which includes an operation in Falmouth on the south coast. It sees real opportunities from a floating offshore wind industry in the UK.
The great thing about this particular innovation is that it relies on a floating base, and A&P has been involved for many years with the oil and gas sector. So marrying that with the fixed infrastructure that goes on top of that is completely logical for us and in line with the type of skills and experience we've had to date. As a port operator, there's significant opportunity. That's very exciting. In terms of vessel support, we've got many clients that are already working in the offshore wind sector, and we'd be supporting their needs in terms of mobilisation of vessels, engineering work on vessels, changes of role in vessels, and that's all work we'd be very keen to do for that industry.
And there would be other supply chain benefits for the South West from a floating offshore wind industry.
There's capabilities here. There are companies on the ground that can operate the types of vessels that are needed to deploy and to service the turbines. That means you've got the skills on land as well to manage that. There's also port infrastructure, a lot of which needs upgrading. There's huge investment opportunity there as well. If you get the ports right, then that's the natural staging point for these projects. No one's got the lead in floating yet. There is still an element of first mover advantages available. There's an opportunity that if it's grasped in the southwest, for example, to have the world leading technology.
For the UK to become a global leader in floating offshore wind, there is a broad agreement about what needs to happen next.
Both investors, technology developers, supply chain need to have that visibility, but also governments particularly have to lead on this and say what the route to market is, outlining what is there in terms of support in order to make that pipeline happen.
We need a big floating offshore wind project in the southwest approaches. We need to secure revenue support from the government. We need a project consent and planning and leasing round. We'll need some sort of investment in the infrastructure. Essentially what we'll be doing is following the same path that the east of England did with fixed offshore wind, and has been a terrific industrial success for them. We've been doing the same but for floating offshore wind.